Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment of the weekend show. First things first, the Electoral Reforms sub-segment with Ario and Banking.
Live from TOS TV Network in Abuja. We are starting on a rather sad note this week, reflecting on the activities of the past couple of days in Nigeria, specifically the NSAS protests that have unfortunately led to the loss of lives and properties at various locations in Nigeria. However, this occurrence reiterates the need for us to push the conversation with respect to electoral reforms and promotion of good governance in Nigeria. And that is what we're going to be examining today. Nigerians took to the streets to protest police brutality, but it has metamorphosed into a campaign and clamor for good governance and adequate leadership. So, sir, what are your thoughts on these conversations?
Abanke, thank you very much. Amidst the protests, like you said, people started talking about leadership, good governance, and I've also seen a couple of people talking about electoral reform. I saw the popular musician and entertainer Davido dedicating a lot of tweets to electoral reforms, and that actually means a lot of things to us, and he sustained that even up to this morning. But before I go further, I think we also need to, like you said, commiserate with those who have lost loved ones and those who have lost properties. Our hearts go out to you, and we believe that we should be able to heal from this as a nation, and hopefully people should be able to find succor in all of this, and also government will be alive to its responsibility. And I think it's important now that we now make electoral reforms the focus of governance in Nigeria, the National Assembly, the leadership. I don't think it should come to a point again where people have together in front of the National Assembly protesting, demanding for electoral reform. And I think the 9th National Assembly, led by the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, I think they should listen to the voice of reasoning loud and clear that people want this electoral reform sorted this year. Yes,
it is important to state that they have, in times past, made promises that the Electoral Amendments Act will pass this year. And like you said, now more than ever, Nigerians are clamoring for this. Coming to the conversation around continuous voter registration and the need to make it truly continuous.
Unfortunately, we can't take the entire electoral reform segment, but you can watch it on our website right away at www.tostvnetwork.com. We will be discussing with our guests in the studio and virtually the proposed budget for 2020. As we all know, the proposed federal government budget of 13.08 trillion for the 2021 fiscal year, tagged the Budget of Economic Recovery and Resilience, was presented to the National Assembly on Thursday, October 8, 2020. The realization of the budget is expected to accelerate the pace of our economic recovery, promote economic diversification, enhance competitiveness, and ensure social inclusion. The budget represents an increase of 27% from approved 10.3 trillion federal government budget for 2020. Today, we discuss the parameters and fiscal assumptions underpinning the 2021 appropriation. Joining us to discuss this, we have
Chiamaka Chigbata. She is a peace and youth advocate and founder of the 20s Network. She's joining us virtually. Welcome to the Weekend Show, Chiamaka. Also in the studio, we have Dr. Odilim Enwegbara. He is a development economist and a phytomedicine practitioner. Welcome back to the Weekend Show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Doc, let me start with you.
Okay.
We've had you on the program many times to discuss these issues, and it seems to me that the frustration remains. For example, the cost of governance remains a cause for concern, as federal government personnel costs, pensions and gratuities account for 33% of the budget. That's about 4.2 trillion. Is this sustainable?
We all know that we are fighting a battle we will never win. It is quite unfortunate that Nigeria continues to deceive itself, and our leaders who are the beneficiaries of this have not thought twice and say, you know what, for how long do we deceive our future generations? It's unfortunate. And sometimes I have stopped weeping for Nigeria because I want to move beyond Nigeria now. I'm into phytomedicine. Many people are sick, and I'm discovering why virtually everybody is sick. And that's the area I want to spend time, because if I can help my country, I can help the world. I'm not bragging there's anything I'm going to offer, but I think I want to spend more time on phytomedicine because I have a lot of energy. I don't want to continue to waste on Nigeria. Unfortunately, Nigeria is a case that those who rule us know that they're doing the wrong thing, but because they're the beneficiaries of the wrong thing, they say, let's go on. You can't go on when you know that what you have done is wrong. And you know there's no way you can get it right unless you do the fundamental changes. These guys know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They're not emotional. They know what they want to do, but the house is collapsing on all of our heads. They will discover what is happening with the youth. It's only the beginning. Because you cannot run an economy this way for so long. Ask yourself, do you know how much deficit spending? Do you know how much, where do you get the deficit spending? Do you know how much debt servicing? No country behaves like that. Even the United States that prints dollars as it wants. There are some fiscal responsibility, there are some fiscal actions the nation has to take. Look at our Fiscal Responsibility Act that says you cannot go beyond that 3% of your GDP. Today, they have gone beyond that. And that's illegal. If National Assembly should approve this, it's illegal because you are going beyond 3% pegging of your deficit. They are now spending 3.6. Go and amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act. When I was working for Article, I said that 3% is too small. We must go up to 10%. But there must be a rule of law. You must go through the Fiscal Responsibility Act and they amend it 2007 and they amend it so that you even increase to 10%. But you cannot be an illegal the government that actually apply illegality in its approach. So my dear sister, it's unfortunate. And when I look at my country, I say this is the country that will be the richest economy in Africa, in one of third or fourth in the world. But you see, the system is so suffocated at the center. The center does not want regions to emerge because those who are running Nigeria are minorities. They know that if regions emerge, they cannot control the economy because he who controls your wallet controls you. And it's very small, tiny population. And they know where they're coming from. And they know they must continue to hold Nigeria to ransom. But you see, that's the way you push me to the wall. What can I do? At the wall, I push back because there's no other place to fall back on. They must tell themselves the truth. The budget is empty. The budget is a paper budget. Because where would they get the money to finance it? The deficit is huge. Where would they get it? That's the question.
Let me bring Chiamaka in. I went through the proposed budget, which thankfully the House of Reps had stood down because of the protests going on in this country, and so they hadn't had a lot of deliberation on it. But the National Assembly still has a budget of 128 billion. The Ministry of Police Affairs has over 441 billion. Ministry of Defense has close to 1 trillion naira. And so every year, this potentially increases. And so if the National Assembly, if the country is complaining of being broke and a statement attributed to the president and say we stand at the risk of entering a second recession in 4 years. Trust deficit is a word we've heard over and over again recently. How do you feel the young people in Nigeria? Do you feel the government is listening to the people? Talking about diversification, talking about spending for justice and the police force and National Assembly. Do you feel they're listening to the people and the proposed budget for 2021? Is it in the right direction? Chiamaka.
Thank you for that opportunity. First, I would like to say that I'm impressed with the direction that the budget is focusing on, that is diversifying our economy. But talking about if they are listening to the people, I am not very sure. Because if we're going to diversify our economy, I think that the government needs what I would call big ideas to be able to do that. And if you look at the budget, it has not shown anything in line with diversifying our economy. It looks like the same thing, but with different numbers. It looks like the same thing they've been, bringing out over the past years. I'm very much more interested in the fiscal part of it, like the speaker, the person who spoke before me, said, talking about the deficits that we're already into. I think that if the government continues to approve budgets with such amount of deficits, that would continue to go into bad debt crisis, and that's not good for Nigerians. That's not good for the economy. I think that we should begin to live within our income.
Chiamaka, we've heard several times that in order to develop, in order for any nation to grow, you need to borrow. You need to borrow for capital expenditure. You need to borrow to expand infrastructure. What's your take on this? Do you truly believe, or are you in the same school of thought as the government, that this, as I see here, debt service obligation is about 3.1 trillion. A total of 2.1 trillion has been set aside to service domestic debt, while 940 billion has been provided for foreign debt. So do you believe this is in line, or it's at par with the development strides this present administration is undergoing?
I think that if we're going to make progress in development, I like that the budget focuses on eradicating poverty, or let's say lifting 100 million youths out of poverty in the next 10 years. That's a good way to go. But when you talk about youth unemployment, I'm not sure that this government truly understands the root cause of youth unemployment. I think that if we're able to solve youth unemployment, then we are making a headway in taking Nigeria to a better place. We have large numbers in that area. I think that the government should call an impact assessment on the various programs that they've developed in the past to actually ascertain how these programs have affected the issue of youth unemployment, and then begin to use that as a model to develop programs in the future.
Okay, Doctor. So, the president recently, and in this budget, spoke about how 774,000 youths will be employed in some empowerment scheme. But these are pretty much people cleaning the streets, sweeping the streets, cleaning gutters, doing handyman work. And also there was mention of a grant for artisans of about 30,000 naira. And so we now have a system of getting loans, getting money, and throwing money at the people, as opposed to creating a sustainable environment and infrastructure. But a question still remains, and which is the fact of the cost of governance. We've spoken about the Orosanye report over and over again, and that even came up in June this year. But this budget doesn't reflect any of those changes. What do you feel about the cost of governance and the role it takes in our budget? Because a huge percentage of the budget goes to paying salaries, basically.
You see, economics is a simple science. It's everyday science. What we talk about is commonsensical. Anybody who tells you economics is a rocket science is talking bunkum. I spent the past 40 years looking at economics. What triggers my interest in economics is not economics itself, it's the history of economics. To look at what nations did, and that they did it rightly or they did it wrongly. From 15th century, where Henry VII started development of England. Look at China. As far back as 1980, China was nowhere. Look at Japan. As at 1868, until Emperor Meiji, Japan was a rural society. Just name the countries. Even Germany until 1841, America 1792, and just name it. So it's not a rocket science. That's why when we come here, we speak bunker. When I look at those economies that shun out numbers and talk blah, 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 I know that they have their time. Because they know it has become like a big boy Nigeria. Is it the right word? Big Nigeria.
Big brother Nigeria.
Big brother Nigeria.
But bringing it back to this,
Big brother
cost of
Nigeria.
governance is still
So,
high.
I'm getting that. You see, you always must give me time because I lay emphasis. I build my story before I talk. We know that we can cut it down because China, as soon as Deng came into power in 1979 and started a revolution in 1980, what he said, the cost of governance is too big for China to even exist as a nation economically. So what he did was to quickly reduce the cost of governance to 40%, from 90% to 40%. We cannot run a country that 1% of the population consumes 70% of the revenue of the country. That's what's going on. We must. But the guys running this country are running in their own interest, not in your and my interest. Because if they are running in your own and my interest, they would have known that you are excluded in the economy. And they would have done something, but they don't care. But the youth are already now telling them, you must care. So that is that. We must bring down the cost of governance. But there's no other way to bring it. The only way to bring that is to regionalize the economy. When you bring economic regions, say everybody go to a region and fight it out. But those running Nigeria are job for the boys, everybody. Do you know the biggest job in Nigeria is to be a politician? And so, and to be a civil servant. Unfortunately, not the civil servant, the lower, but a high level. So we must, as a nation, bring down the cost of government. And how do we bring it? China did it, and we can do it. 90% of a Nigerian workforce are redundant. You do what is called fiscal auditing. Fiscal personnel auditing, sorry. When you do personnel auditing, you know that you have to slim down on the employment in government. And when you do that, the rest you pay them about 100 million, but they will not get that 100 million cash. They will go and get a business plan and come and show the type of business they will do, and then you provide them sources of getting equipment and things like that and getting into the market. That's what China did, and we can do it.
Doc, I wonder if you can answer this in 30 seconds. It was my previous question to Chiamaka. Yeah. I was asking, the rhetoric out there that you have to borrow in order to invest in capital infrastructure, do you buy into this?
Fantastic question. I didn't want to answer because you didn't ask me now. It's a beautiful question, but it has a lot of problems when you're looking at it. It's complex. You see, you need to borrow to invest in infrastructure. I borrow. I'm going to borrow about, I don't want to say it before people know. I'm borrowing because I want to employ about 10,000 Nigerians in the next 5 years. I have over 7 blockbuster phytomedicine drugs that will change the face of the world. I don't have the money, but I have the idea. When you have great ideas, the money follows you. What Nigeria borrows, Nigeria does not have ideas that the money follows. They borrow for consumption. You see, Nigeria is supposed to be borrowing about 50 to 70 billion dollars every year. But what do you do with the money is the question. When you borrow money, you show the numbers, you show your revenue stream, you show payment plan. Nigeria does not have payment plan. They borrow to go and build a railway in the president's village. They borrow to go and build a university in the minister's house or compound. That is the problem.
But railway is a critical infrastructure, isn't it?
Critical infrastructure?
Yes.
Okay, let them lend me money to go and build a house in my village. Can they lend me money? So what I'm saying is, without joking about it, there's nothing wrong with borrowing. But you borrow with a specific aims of high return on investment, which means if you borrow to build Dangote's refinery, you know that Dangote is close to Lagos. That's the largest economy in Nigeria. And Dangote's return on investment is enough to pay back the loan. But if Dangote borrowed them about 15 billion or 12 billion he borrowed, and go to a village in Kano, where he belongs to, and build that, he knows that nobody he will have a lot of problem for raw material to come to that place and the evacuation of finished goods. That is the problem with Nigeria. Though, you know why they borrow? Because Nigeria is centralized. There's no responsibility towards the loan. If you allow regions to merge, the largest region, the most prosperous region is going to be Southwest. But other regions we follow Southwest. So, but the center doesn't want that. So, for me to close the chapter is that Nigeria must borrow, but borrow responsibly.
That's a fine place to leave it. Doc, Chiamaka, thank you both for your time on today's program. That's all we have for you. Do follow us on social media at Weekend Show NG, at Osasu Igbinedion.
And Madaki on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We'll see you same time, same place next week. And until then, stay safe and stay blessed.